First salmon ceremony, once again, I say, I tell you, it's a way to honor that fish. We bring that fish in and we cook it and we honor it, and you notice we got some nice tasty fish cooking there on the spit there. We'll do about 12-foot trench and lay it out. But it also, we bring in a lot of our friends from, outside the tribe and able to share that with them, that experience with them, and they all just love it, and it always makes us so happy to continue that. And I'm sure it makes our ancestors happy, and that's probably the most important thing. Is the reason we're doing it is we're doing it for our ancestors, because that's why we're doing it, and their style. We can sense, even when we're out on the waters, we can see that light fog that's on the water, and when we see that, we know our ancestors are with us. First time in a canoe in a parade. Now today she's out there paddling. She's been in the canoe paddling twice. And learning how to know in a parade. That's Chief Snyder, Ray Gardner, and myself back in DC. We are back in St. Louis for Lewis and Clark. Like I said, it was a great platform for us to get our story out, and I think if it hadn't been for Lewis and Clark this go around, we wouldn't have the community support on our restoration bill. I think being able to get out there time and time again and tell our story really speared this grassroots effort, because this Chinook restoration is larger than our just 2,700 members. That's a Thule lodge I was going to go look at. And there's a couple canoes that George Laughlin had made that they took back to St. Louis so that they could display. Yeah, some people think that was pretty rough. I thought it was just another day on the day at work here. We were actually returning from taking the bones out. It probably wasn't your prime water, but it wasn't anything too bad. I mean, I can remember a couple years ago crossing the shipping channels in Seattle. We'd already done about 6-7 hours that day. We felt pretty good because the push of the tide was really getting us moving, and we were doing about 7-8 miles an hour. And then we look out there and we said, wow, it looks like the weather's changing. We're going to get wet. Tide changed. The nor'wester came in. Next thing you know, we're getting some chop. And the next 3 hours were bailing water, and I think we took on about 4 canoe loads of water that day, and dodging ships. So but we made it, and we took off again the next day. So great. Yes.
Do you know the shape of the paddles are very different? Do you have any sense of why they arrived at that shape?
Well, that was the river paddle that we used traditionally. And the reason they arrived at it is because they spent a lot of time in the small estuaries around here. There's a lot of cottonwoods and so forth, and it gave you more push-off and maneuverability around the rocks and the cottonwoods. The other thing that was really great is when the women would harvest the wapato, they could, because they're in the water, harvesting the wapato, they could use the paddle to help root up that wapato balls. And we identified with that. I'm sure there was an ocean-going style paddle, a little bit different than this, but we identified with this paddle, so this is the paddle that we use as river people. And when we go up on the journeys, so many people will see that style and they'll say, wow, that's very unique, tell me about it, can I use it? So you let them borrow for a day and then they really like them. So, but they do, they push just as much water as anybody else's paddles, and our canoes are just as fast as anybody else's canoes.
How large a canoe is that?
I think our canoe's about 23 feet, and then up to the end, maybe about 26. We're hoping to get a 35-foot canoe next year. We travel on these tribal journeys. It's been 20 years on the tribal journeys. A lot of times we travel well over 200 miles on a journey in about 8 to 10 days. Next year, the journey's going to take us from Skamakaway down to about here, and then we're going to probably portage over to Bay Center, and we'll spend the night there. Then the next day we will go over to Tokeland, and then once we get to Tokeland, we're going out to Little Paw and hooking a right and going up the ocean to Macaw, going to Gia Bay. So, yeah, we want to do that. Our ancestors did it. We can do it. And they'll be with us, so that's even better. And there's been a real huge interest in doing that. on the journey, you know, people come from their different territories. You know, a lot of times we started with other tribes up in the journey. We started with the Makah, we started with the Lummi, and we started with different tribes and arrived at the deal. We never left from here. And once we said we were going to leave from here, we've got Grand Ron wants to travel with us through there. The Callets want to travel with us through there. There's a group of Makah, a couple of canoe families from Makah that want to come down and travel with us from here. Also want to come and travel with us from here. Once we get over to Showwater, we're going to pick up Showwater and Chehalis, you know, so there's a huge interest of taking that ocean route, you know. And then the other thing that's beautiful about the whole ordeal is because of our relationship with the Lady Washington and the trade reenactments and so forth, they want to be our support ship. So I'm like, oh, well, I mean, we got a ship where we can actually carry extra paddlers on. We're going to actually have a boat bigger than the canoe, you know, so, because usually we have pretty, you know, somebody who can throw you some Gatorades and some, you know, power bars, you know, that's about it, you know, so it's going to be very good, yeah.
When is this trip being planned?
The tribal journey takes place right towards the end of August and into the first week of July. I mean, end of July, the first week of August, yeah, stretch it out. It's hard to pinpoint the days until, you know, the host tribe decides when everything's coming. But you can go to tribaljourneys.com and you can look them up and keep track of it. It's great. It's great. You know, the journeys are a great way to share with your young. You know, we have a huge support group that goes with us. You know, the ground crew. So you have your young. We've had baby infants up to, you know, your elders traveling with you as well. So it's a community of people that are traveling on the journey, more than just the pullers that are out there every day.
How long is it usually take?
We're thinking it's probably going to take us about 8 to 10 days. Yeah, and the only downfall of heading up the coast is up in the Sound. You know, every day you got a host tribe and they're taking care of you. Well, there's going to be several days we're taking care of ourselves. You know, because there's nobody out there, you know, so it'll be at least 4 days that we'll tend for ourselves, but we can do that. I'm sure we can do that. But it's going to help to have like a 35-foot canoe to do it too, you know. Yeah, not this one out here.
Wow.
That canoe is going to be 2 feet shorter than our 35-foot canoe. We got to have a bigger one than Grand Ron's, you know. That's Grand Ron's. That's Skonkia, and Skonkia can hold, well, Skonkia could probably hold about 12 people, and you can actually put 2 or 3 extra people in the middle, because it's so wide. So you can have people offset each other as they're pulling. So once we get in the canoes, we don't get out of the canoes. You know, 8 hours, 10 hours, you're in the canoe. You know, you might stop and eat a lunch, but you don't want to stop for too long because tides change, and that last half hour might turn into 3 hours if you miss the tide. So you get in there and you just get going. Salila Falls, we went up there for a commemoration of the Salila Falls area, and that's us there. We're actually going right over the top of Salila. Very calm waters that Mother Earth gave us that day, considering you think of the gorge, you know, we're thinking of windsurfing, and, you know, and that's what my biggest fear going up there was like, we're going from where to where? You know? You know? Because when you're bucking the wind, it's a little bit different than, you know, that water. I've been in that canoe. It's kind of interesting in that canoe out here on the first sand ceremony. One time we came off a sand spit, and the people could see us because we had a portage off to get over the sand spit, so they could see us from Chinook Cove. And they were watching us, and we took off. And the first time we went up like this, and we came down and hit bottom. And of course, it's a flat bottom, so it's like a drum. It's like boom, you know, sides rally. Did that again. And about the third time when we hit, we brought on about 50 gallons of water. And everybody's looking at each other like, "Did you bring the canoe baler?" No, okay, well, that turn, let's go. So it wasn't until we got up there we started to pick the canoe up to take it up off the shore. It's like, oops, we're gonna do this thing out, you know. So, but Skockwall will take care of you. Skockwall is the name of the canoe that's out there. That means lamprey eel, because we feel that canoe can climb the falls like a lamprey eel. And that canoe has been in all kinds of water. I've been in a lot of water in that canoe. Big water. We got a couple different avenues to go. We could bring a log in from up in Canada, or we could make a canoe like that one, which is more of a manufactured canoe. That one is not, it's wood, it's not glass like some of the new canoes that are being made. But, and there's pros and cons of both. You know, with a dugout, of course, you know, you have to, there's a lot more, they're high maintenance. you know, and you gotta really, you know, have a place to store them and keep them out of the sun and keep them moist and so forth, you know, so they're high maintenance. Where the canoe like out there, you know, it takes pretty hard to down, you know, so the story about our canoe our new canoe is pretty interesting too, because of Lewis and Clark commemoration. The relationships were built, and Ray Gardner, our chairman, was asked to become on the board, to be a board member of American Rivers, you know, a huge organization back in D.C. And once he became a board member of American Rivers, he found out that one of the board members' wives was a descendant of William Clark. So he's always ribbing her about the fact that they stole that canoe, you know, on the way back. So about a year ago or so, Ray was asked to go back and do a blessing of a river that they cleaned up in St. Louis area, and he couldn't make it back there. He had to have a couple stints put in, and so his health wasn't too good at that time. And so he sent a prayer back to him, you know, and a gentleman from the Osage tribe stood up and he said a few words, not knowing anything about Ray or this lady or anything else. And he said that, you know, their belief is that a seventh generation descendant of William Clark will help correct some of the injustices that happened along the trail. Next day, Ray got a call and she said, I want to replace that canoe. And of course, it helps that she's descends from the Budweiser family and Anheuser-Busch family as well, so she has the money, you know. So they're putting up the money to give us back that canoe, you know, and they want to make sure that it's, as a family, that it's all taken care of properly so that they can respect their ancestors by correcting that injustice. So that's where that canoe is coming from, you know. So yeah.